It happened in a quiet provincial town where life was rarely disrupted. But that evening, the silence was shattered by a frantic scream. 10-year-old Emily collapsed suddenly while playing in the backyard. Her small body lay motionless, her face pale as though the light had left her. Her father, Tom, rushed to his daughter in a panic. He could feel her little hand growing colder. "Breathe, Emily, please," he whispered desperately, but there was no response. Soon, an ambulance arrived, and the town was enveloped in an eerie silence. At the hospital, time seemed to stand still. The doctors worked tirelessly to bring the little girl back to life. After 20 minutes, one of them finally lowered his hands and whispered, "Time of death, 7:42 p.m. For her parents, it was as if the world had come crashing down. Emily's mother, Sarah, collapsed into a chair, unable to contain her sobs. Tom clenched his fists, standing to the side, as if refusing to believe this could happen to his little girl. But in the midst of their grief, something unexplainable occurred. The monitor, which had just been showing a flat line, suddenly emitted a faint signal. The room filled with sounds of commotion as a nurse exclaimed, "She's breathing." Emily opened her eyes. Her gaze was both innocent and hauntingly deep, as if she were not only looking at those around her but through them. "I saw the light," she murmured faintly. The room fell silent. The room remained utterly quiet. The only sounds were the faint hum of medical equipment and the soft breathing of the little girl who had just returned from the brink of death. The doctors exchanged glances, unsure whether they should intervene or let her speak. Emily's parents, seated on either side of her hospital bed, leaned in closer. Sarah gently stroked her daughter's hair, her voice trembling as she finally broke the silence. "Sweetheart, what happened? What did you see?" Emily slowly blinked, her gaze fixed on the ceiling, as though she were looking beyond it into another world. I wasn't here anymore," she began, her voice barely audible. "I was in a place so beautiful, it's hard to describe. It wasn't like anything we have here." Tom shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He wasn't a religious man, and his daughter's words unsettled him. "Emily," he asked cautiously, "what kind of place was it?" "It was warm, and everything felt alive," she continued. "The light, it was everywhere, but it wasn't just light. It was love, pouring into me, filling me. I felt so calm, as if nothing bad could ever happen again." Her words sent a chill down Sarah's spine. She tightened her grip on Emily's hand. "And then? Did you see anyone?" A faint smile appeared on Emily's lips. "Yes. There was a man. He stood in the light, but it wasn't blinding. I could see him clearly. He had kind eyes, but they were sad too. It felt like he knew everything about me, even things I didn't know about myself." Tom leaned forward, his voice firmer now. "Who was he, Emily?" Her smile grew a little wider. "I knew it was Jesus. I don't know how, but I just knew. He didn't tell me who he was. But he didn't have to." Emily continued speaking, her voice soft but steady, as if she were reading a text etched into her soul. "He told me I needed to deliver his message. I'm waiting for you. I love you. But time is short." The simplicity of those words hung in the air, yet the room felt heavy, as if the entire world had paused to listen. Even the doctors in the corner stopped what they were doing and quietly listened. "He showed me what's happening now," the girl added. "People are living in fear, in anger. They've forgotten what it means to love each other. It's making the world darker. I saw the darkness growing, creeping into people's lives, stealing their joy and hope." Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. She struggled to hold back her sobs, afraid of interrupting her daughter. Tom, who usually avoided conversations about faith or spiritual matters, looked shaken. "Darkness? What do you mean?" he asked, his voice unsteady. Emily looked directly at her father. "It's not physical darkness, Dad. It's what people carry inside them: anger, greed, fear. It makes them cruel, drives them to turn away from each other. But Jesus said it can be stopped if people remember what love is again." Her voice trembled as she added, "He showed me what will happen if we don't change. Cities destroyed, people crying out for help, but no one answers. It gets so dark that the light almost disappears." Sarah couldn't hold back any longer. She pulled her daughter into her arms, holding her tightly, as if trying to shield her from everything she had just described. "But that's not the end," Emily suddenly said, her voice stronger now. She gently pulled away to look her mother in the eyes. "He showed me what will happen if we remember how to love. The world becomes brighter. People start taking care of each other. All the bad things go away. Jesus said it's possible, but we have to start now." The little girl's words were simple, yet they carried a profound depth, as if they held a truth everyone knew but had long forgotten. "I had to come back to deliver this," she said, as though answering an unspoken question. "He said it's important. That's why I was sent back." Tom couldn't speak. He simply stared at his daughter, feeling something he hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. Sarah, still holding Emily's hand, whispered softly, "We heard you, sweetheart. And we'll do everything we can to bring the light back." After Emily's story spread through the town, things began to change. At first, friends and neighbors came to the house. Some out of curiosity, but most seeking hope. They listened intently as Emily spoke about her visions, Jesus' words, and how each of us can bring light back into the world. Tom, who had always been a staunch skeptic, seemed to change the most. He had always considered himself a man of reason, avoiding anything that couldn't be logically explained. But now, as he listened to his daughter talk about love and light, he felt something shift inside him. For the first time in his life, he began to pray, first quietly, to himself, and later with his family. Sarah, who had once been full of faith but lost it in the chaos of everyday life, felt warmth and purpose returning to her heart. She began noticing the little things, the smiles of strangers, acts of kindness around her. And she, too, started spreading kindness to others. But Emily's greatest impact was on those who had almost lost all hope. One evening, a young man named Jake came to their door. His eyes were hollow, as though he carried a heavy burden. Emily looked at him with such sincerity that he immediately sat down and began to speak. He admitted he had planned to take his own life, believing there was no purpose left. "But your words," he faltered, struggling to find the right ones. "They changed everything. I suddenly realized there's still light, there's still hope. You saved me, Emily." The girl simply smiled and said, "It wasn't me. It was Jesus. He sent me to remind you that you matter. That you're needed in this world." Emily remained an ordinary little girl. She loved to draw, run around with her friends, and eat ice cream. But her eyes always held a glimmer of the light she had seen beyond this life. She didn't like being called special. "I'm just like everyone else," she would say with a smile. "I just saw that everything will be okay if we don't forget to love." She didn't change the world in a day, but her words inspired hundreds of people around her. It was like a small spark that, when it touched others, began to ignite new flames. Emily's story became more than just a tale of a miracle. It became a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is a light that calls to us. But that light isn't somewhere out there, it's within each of us. Jesus gave Emily a simple message: to love, to believe, and to hold on to hope. Sarah, looking at her daughter one evening, said, "You didn't just change us. You changed everyone who heard your story." Emily looked back at her mother with a kind smile. "It wasn't me, Mom. I just did what he asked." Tom, who had struggled with his doubts for so long, stood silently at the window that night, gazing at the stars. He knew his daughter's words were not just her imagination. For the first time in his life, he felt there was something greater than what could be seen with the eyes. Emily's story spread far beyond their small town. People began sharing her words, writing them down, and passing them on to others. For some, it was hope. For others, a reminder. For many, it was the beginning of a journey towards something greater. But for everyone, her story became a light that warmed their hearts. Emily continued living her life, but her words remained with all who heard them. In one of her rare moments of reflection, she said, "I don't know why he chose me, but I'm glad I could share his love with people." That's what matters most, remembering that we're all loved, even when we've forgotten how to love. And that was the power of her story. She didn't just talk about faith, she reminded people that love is what can change everything. But the choice remained with each person, to live in the light or stay in the dark. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel to hear more inspiring stories. Let's share the light together.